we're jumping straight into our conversations this morning because we are being joined now by Mr. Anslem Richards, who is a technical advisor to the Chief Secretary out of the Division of Finance, Trade and the Economy. So a special good morning and welcome to you, Mr. Richards. How are you doing this morning?
I'm fine. Thank you for having me, and thank you, Tobago, and Trinidad and Tobago, wherever in the world we may find ourselves as Trinidadians and Tobagonians.
Great. Now, this topic for this morning, actually, what we're discussing this morning is what's been going on with the Registrar's office here in Tobago, because we are getting news that it's been shut down.
Well, I have received the same type of information that the services of the office have been suspended, and I use suspended guardedly. And my investigation reveals that the Tobago operation was locked out from the central system of the Registrar General office by the Registrar General, Ms. Karen Bridgewater, because of some kind of internal administrative disagreement. I think that amongst an abuse of authority and misbehavior in public, no public officer has the right or any entitlement to deny the public of any service, because that is what it is called, public service. And these services are paid by the tax dollars of Tobagonians and Trinidadians, and no single individual has any constitutional right or authority to conduct him or herself in the manner in which this matter has evolved. And therefore, I think it is fitting for Tobagonians and our leaders in Tobago to move with dispatch and call upon the Prime Minister and the Attorney General, under whose remit this office falls, to ensure that the services is immediately reinstalled to the Tobago office, so that Tobagonians can have access to their birth certificate, their death certificate, their company register records to conduct legitimate business. And following to that, I think that the Judicial and Legal Service Commission should be contacted or notified to institute the necessary disciplinary action against the Registrar General of Trinidad and Tobago. This cannot be allowed to go unattended to, because what it will do, it will set a precedent for any other senior public officers to feel that they can unilaterally cut off any service from Tobago. This reminds me, Kandace, of what is happening in Israel and Gaza. This is a kind of occupational kind of conduct, when you have the authority to shut off water, or you have the authority to shut off electricity. It is akin to that. And it's frightening in a modern society that a single public officer can degenerate her conduct to this level. And therefore, it is extremely important that the Prime Minister and the Attorney General look at this matter for what it presents, and ensure that all the legal and administrative requirements are had where this errant public officer is concerned.
Have you been in conversation with the Attorney General's office at all as to what's been going on, to try to get some clarity or to try to get some relief to the situation?
Well, I am not. That is not in my jurisdiction. But I did have conversation with the Chief Secretary, who is actively and deliberately pursuing this matter. And I think probably later today we may be able to have a very profound reaction from the administration in Tobago on this matter. So that is being attended to at that level of the island, at the level of the Chief Secretary. That is where his remit starts. He has that kind of authority under the law to have these kinds of conversation with the Prime Minister under Section 31 of the THA Act, to ensure there is a harmonious relationship for the good governance of Trinidad and Tobago. And this is certainly a matter that requires that legal provision to be activated. And I know that the Chief Secretary is acting actively on those matters.
And how long has this been happening? Is it just this week, or has it extended past this week?
It seems that it has been happening a few days, but it really got escalated yesterday, and the public start feeling the brunt of this illegal conduct by the Registrar General. We have situation where the staff has to return to the old handwritten death certificate so that people can get those documents to execute the last rites to their loved ones. And that is definitely unacceptable by any standard. And therefore, we as Tobagonian, and I think our two parliamentary representative should have condemned this kind of conduct during the budget debate. I have learned that, and I am reviewing it, that the member for Tobago East, under whose probably executive authority the office of the Registrar General of Tobago falls, has been in the media trying to explain this thing away, which I think, if you are representing people and you have an errant public officer in Trinidad that is denying your constituents access to their legitimate services, then you have a duty of care to ensure that this is terminated or is stopped immediately. And to come in the media and trying to apologize on that, I am not the kind of person to take that kindly. And I see that as a dereliction of duty on the part of the parliamentary representative of Tobago East and West. Definitely, we need persons who can stand up in the national parliament and speak to this issue without fear, favor, or malice or ill will.
And have you been able to speak or have any conversations with any of the workers for them to give you a perspective on what's been going on their side of things?
Well, I have had conversation. I did my research. I did my investigations into this matter. I have very intimate details as to what is causing this issue, but I would not want to put it in the public space. I think that I have advised the Chief Secretary on this matter, and I think I have to give room for the Chief Secretary to take charge on matters like these.
All right, now moving on to the other topic for this morning, and that has to do with the minimum wage increase. Now, how has the THA been treating with this issue? Because, I mean, we'll have to prepare for it. It's going to be a law from January. It's going to take effect from January 1st. What is being put in place to treat with some of the changes that may happen as a result of a minimum wage increase?
Right. So this issue has two sides to it. So let us speak firstly from the issue of the wage increase to the workers of the THA. I think all of us will recall that when this administration came into office, there's a clear policy statement that they bring towards a living wage, which is much superior than a minimum wage. And in that journey, they moved with dispatch and increased the wages of the lowest paid workers in the THA, which is namely CPEP and URP workers, and they have brought that up to the daily pay rates. So most of our workers in the THA, are working for the minimum wage and above, the new minimum wage and above, which is $20.50. They have already been enjoying that kind of luxury or that kind of improved economic and socioeconomic improvements since last year. And that has really impacted the resources of the THA in a significant way. So that is something, and I think what we have seen that have moved, because if you go back to the budget, you will see that we got $18 million to fund URP and $8 or $9 million to fund CPEP. Yeah. Those allocations cannot even run those two programs for a quarter. The THA annually subsidized those programs to the tune of nearly $100 million to keep Tobagonians employed and to put food and services on the table and in homes and families in Tobago. So that is the kind of sacrifice and the kind of progressive policy decision this administration has made since it came into office. So Tobagonians need to take note of that. On the other side of this issue of the minimum wage that is likely to impact the THA is on the side of the provision of services to the THA by service providers. Now, some of the key services that is contracted by the THA by certain service providers attracts the minimum wage. For instance, security services and janitorial services. Those are probably the two I can speak to with some level of preciseness. Yeah. And what will happen in those cases is the cost of those services will be prorated by the minimum wage and what we call a margin or a markup for the company to make its profit and so forth, and to pay for consumables in the case of the janitorial services. And then there's a kind of variation in the security area of that, where if you take an armed guard or a baton guard and that kind of dynamics. So what we are projecting there, and we have been looking at this issue, is that those services that is very significant in the THA expenditure profile is likely to see some kind of increase in the cost of the provision of those services by the service provider, because it will change the cost the cost equation for those service provider. And naturally, I think they will want to pass it down to the customer. And therefore, we are programming that to see how that will impact on our resources going forward.
And is there going to be any decisions where you may have to move money around to fund the CPEP and URP program? Because we know that, I mean, the budget that was presented is way less than what is needed to cover the wages and so on for those programs.
Well, the issue of CPEP, funding CPEP and URP has always been a financial dance for previous and the current administration. And it speaks to your ability to do what we probably call fiscal and financial gymnastics. And if you understand how this thing operates, Kandace, is that you cannot fund CPEP and URP from current allocation, because the chart of account for the country is set up, and the financial rules and regulations. So you cannot take monies from this current year's allocation and put it to fund a program like CPEP and URP. So it means, therefore, in the previous year, we have to do the kind of fiscal dance and the fiscal maneuvering to ensure that we carve out that kind of fiscal and financial space to ensure that we can keep this food alive and keep Tobagonians on the job, keep them working, keep food on the tables, keep books and snacks in the lunch bags of Tobagonians as we go forward. So that is something that the Chief Secretary have been leading with a level of precision. And I can say without fear of contradiction that he has done that well. And this year I can say that the resources to ensure that CPEP and URP is kept alive has already been, quote unquote, accounted for.
All right, great. When we're looking forward to seeing more of that, especially after the Assembly goes in, or the Executive Council, I should say, goes into their retreat to reprioritize the budget and so on in the next few weeks.
Well, definitely the Chief Secretary and the Secretary of Finance will come back to Tobagonians and give a very detailed report as to what is likely to happen given our resources and what kinds of strategy we have to deploy and what kind of support the administration will require from Tobagonians going forward in this very projected financially and fiscal challenging period for us, given the resources that was allocated to the Assembly for fiscal 2024. So definitely this is not an exclusive THA matter. It will require all of us as Tobagonians coming together and understanding the tasks that face us and what we all need to do to ensure that we execute this task with the kind of resolve and determination that is required to move this island forward.
All right, well, thank you so much, Mr. Richards, for being us and for giving us your perspective on those matters this morning.